Okay, look, the Senate needed 60 votes to pass a spending bill and keep the budget going and keep the government open. They couldn't get it. There's not enough Republicans. There's not enough Democrats. Nobody gets 60 votes. They needed some people to flip. The Democrats held strong, didn't flip, didn't give the votes needed, got to a shutdown. Their main contention was that they wanted to extend the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Basically the stuff that makes your premiums for Obamacare cheaper. So the amount of money you pay every month for health insurance, if you have Obamacare, is much lower because of these subsidies. That was like their main thing. So they're holding out. They're like basically saying, if you don't extend these subsidies because they're about to expire, then we won't support your spending bill and the government will shut down. And they both head to head, no movement, nobody making any progress. They weren't even, no side was even really negotiating, unlike past shutdowns. And so we got days after days after days of no progress. Now, both parties, Republicans and Democrats, thought the other side would have it worse. They both pointed fingers and they wanted the public to blame the other party. And so if their polling went down, they would crack. That was the idea. But then something very interesting just happened. Something crazy, to be honest. So after a month plus of this shutdown, and again, it's starting to get bad. After 30 days, it gets exponentially bad because people have now been a month without pay. They're working 38-hour weeks and getting zero pay stub, no money. And so they can't afford rent, mortgage, schooling for their kids. There's a lot of things they can't afford. So it becomes a real problem. And when they don't spend, other places have to start laying off because they don't have the customers coming in. So it's like a spreading, cascading bad effect. Air traffic controllers stop coming into work. Flight shutdown. Again, as of 2 days ago, they were shutting down 10% of all flights at like the 40 largest airports in America. Things are getting pretty bad. But here's the thing. In the political battle, it was like very clear people were blaming Trump more. Full stop. Like his polling was taking a harder hit, and the Democrats won 3 big elections. They won the New York one, they won, I forget the exact other 2. It was the Virginia one and the New Jersey one, maybe? They won 3 big elections, okay? So it was working. Like the plan was, we're both gonna take some hits. Everyone's gonna be mad at the government, both sides, because this is a disaster shutdown, but they're more mad at the people in power for this chaos. So the plan is working. And even Trump in private is, some things leaked. He's talking to Republicans, he's like, hey, we're getting killed out there. Trump is saying this. He's like, we're getting killed. We have to eliminate the filibuster and get something forced through because the shutdown has to end, okay? So the plan is working. Now, it is bad for America to have the shutdown go on, but if you're gonna commit to it and it's working for your goals and you think you're gonna get your goals, then it is crazy to find out that yesterday, 8 Democrats flipped. They abandoned the plan, they flipped, they voted Republicans, they got the 60 votes they needed, and now the shutdown is not yet ended, but about to end it. So I have the names. This is the Democrats who flipped. So we got Dick Durbin, we got Tim Kaine, we got Maggie Hassan, we got Jeannie Shaheen, Jackie Rosen, Catherine Cortez Masto, John Fetterman, and Angus King. I forget which one of these. One of these had always voted support of the bill. And then Rand Paul voted against the one Republican. Rand Paul, the budget god. This guy wants a balanced budget, and I do respect it. He's consistent. So anyway, these guys flip. Now, the unique thing about all these voters here for the Democrat Party is that none of them, not one of them, is up for election anytime soon. Either they're on their last term or they don't have to rerun until like 28 or something like that. They're nowhere near an election. So the will of the voters to punish them for caving is like impossible to enforce. Now, the head of the DNC, Chuck Schumer, voted against the bill. He said they shouldn't have done this, yada, yada, yada. But it's suspect, and I want to explain why. It's suspect. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, they both voted against the bill. They said these guys were a splinter cell. But because it's so coordinated to be a specific group of Democrats who all are lined up with no way to be punished, it feels more like a way that they could pick and choose a few key votes to end the shutdown while allowing everyone else to avoid the blame. That's what it feels like. Now, we don't know that, but it's kind of bad either way, and I want to explain. So if you're Chuck Schumer and you're the head of the DNC, and you're like, I didn't approve this, like this is a bad idea, that even if you're telling the truth, it's a sign of incompetence. You know what I'm saying? It's a sign that you can't get your fucking house in order. This is the biggest thing the Democrat Party's had to do in Trump era. This is their only leverage. This is the one stance. So either you can't keep people in line to keep a cohesive message that's working, or worse than that, you have literally planned and coordinated a way to undermine what people actually want. We can't know, it's behind closed doors. It does look suspect. And either way, the way I saw it described is like Democrats yet again find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And that's really what it is. Like, I don't want to overstate how it was actually working. The chaos of the government shutdown, while bad, again, on a human level, you can be like, listen, this has to end no matter what, because the human level is problem. But if you're going to commit to it, it's insane to abandon it once what everyone expects will happen will happen. That's the crazy part. You know, if you're going to go into a shutdown face-off, there's going to be some kind of pain that leads to people ousting the opposing party. If you're like anti-pain at all, no pain, I'll cave no matter what, then you should have caved from the beginning. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, they've caved, shutdown's ending. Now, there is a next layer. That is the analysis you're going to mostly get, right? People, it's pretty obvious how this was kind of a cowardly cave, and either Schumer was behind it or should have stopped it. Either way, it looks bad. Now, there's another level to it. So here's the deal. The midterms are coming up. The only concession they got, so the Democrats got basically nothing. They got no concession to vote for this. All they got was a promise to have a vote about the healthcare subsidies in 1 month, in December. I mean, they'll fund SNAP and they'll roll back all the firings, but that just means they go back to how the shutdown started. They're not, when they got a promise for a vote. Now, think about that, first of all. You know that if they're not going to vote to give it to you now during the shutdown, they're certainly not going to give it to you a month later when you have no leverage. Obviously, there's a bit of a political game going on, okay? They know they're not going to get it in a month. Their only goal with the vote in a month is to show the public the Republicans openly voting against it. And it's just about healthcare. Because this is the political strategy. This is a cynical political strategy. I think that Chuck Schumer thinks that in 2026, having Americans' healthcare be terrible will help them win the election. That is the idea, because look at this. This is healthcare premiums without the tax credits. This is going to affect starting in December. This is going to start. A lot of people are going to start seeing their monthly premiums go way, way up all over the country, especially old people who vote in massive numbers. And again, during the debate of the shutdown, people don't pay attention. I don't know how to make that more clear, but the average person is not paying attention to what the details of what each side is voting for or caring about. They don't know. But when they feel this bill go up and there's been a vote specifically on this bill on healthcare in December that the Republicans vote against, it creates a lot of momentum for campaign ads in 26 in individual states that they can bring back the healthcare subsidies if you vote Democrat. That's I think the idea. That is the idea. And you can see it right here. Look, Trump's shutdown win just landed Republicans with a huge political headache. So again, the fact that the Republicans won would only really help them electorally if they had their own healthcare plan. But they don't. So it will be a problem for them in the midterms because people will notice they're massively. Now, again, as a citizen, I don't care about this political grandstanding back and forth. Your job is not to play 5D chess with people's lives so they're mad enough to vote against the current party in power. Your goal is to govern. Everyone's goal should be to make the citizens' lives better. However, I do think that's actually what's happening, is that this political headache is going to fall on Trump's doorstep, especially a lot of individual Republicans' doorsteps in 2026 midterms. It's already causing a massive rift within the party. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene are saying, I'm absolutely disgusted that my health insurance premiums will double if tax credits expire this year. Not a single Republican in leadership has talked to us about this or given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health insurance premiums doubling. So look, Marjorie Taylor Greene flip-flopping all over the place, but this is the real thing, is they don't have a plan. And this has been a long time problem. Donald Trump, I found a tweet as old as 2017 saying, despite what you hear in the press, healthcare is coming along great. We are talking to many groups and it will end in a beautiful picture. And then in 2019, Trump says GOP will be the party of healthcare, but provides no plan. And then in 2024, he's in a debate.
If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better healthcare than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it.
That is a great magical plan.
But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But
okay, but now he is president. Now he is president and they still don't have a plan. This will just lapse and the prices will double for most people's monthly premiums and they're going to be really angry about it. It's not the environment. I mean, listen, I got a whole separate thing I want to talk about with affordability and how Trump is really missing the moment on, really misreading the room on affordability. He's coming out there and saying affordability is not a problem. It's a hoax. But this is going to be a problem. So yeah, I think old Chuck Schumer here is trying to line up 8 Democrats who can't be primaried to get this thing through so that they can run on the decline of the healthcare that will result from this cut from Republicans. Now, the other thing, the only small thing, again, I fully think this is pretty cowardly to back down when it was working, but I do say the other small thing is that I think there was a genuine fear about, at this point, it seemed pretty clear that Trump was not going to cave on the ACA subsidies and was in fact probably going to force through the removal of the filibuster, which would allow the Republicans to get a lot of things passed without the 60 votes. And I think there was a bit of a blink on that. They wanted to save the filibuster. He couldn't. I mean, he could if he got John Thune on his side, but Thune wouldn't go for it. Yeah, but pressure was mounting. That's the problem. Is every day the pressure was mounting. So it was a toxic cocktail. I don't think the way it worked out is pretty good for anybody, which is just how the American government likes to work. Just constant stepping in rakes from everybody. How about that? How about that?